Emotion literacy is knowing how you got to the emotion, going back to something that you probably can't remember, but a trauma.
Yeah.
It's something that was learned in a moment in which, and I think that's the definition of a trauma, mine anyway, in which you were outgunned.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know what to do. You were afraid. You didn't have any power. And as you grow up, you don't want to have that feeling anymore.
All right. So today I have the honor of having a conversation with someone I've been very interested in talking to. His name is Bud Wheeler. And I first saw him in a documentary that anyone who watches this channel has seen me mention multiple times, probably my favorite documentary, called The Work, 2017. And he's one of a handful of people I saw in this documentary, one of the facilitators that, to me, just clearly had not only done the work himself, but had very clear insight into how transformational work is done, very good instincts on how to sort of work with people who are going through very intense experiences. And most of all, I sensed a tremendous amount of compassion and heart in the approach. So been very interested to talk to this gentleman, and welcome to the channel, Bud.
Well, thank you so much.
So I guess let's just go back to whenever you think it's most relevant to kind of start to tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, when perhaps did your interest in transformational work begin? Or you can just give us a little background on yourself, where you grew up and so forth.
Well, I'll start and be brief with the initial. Where I grew up was in the Chicago suburbs. I have struggled there because of the imbalance of people that look like me at that time and now. I live in the same. I live about 4 blocks where I used to live, and a lot of my work was driven by of a lot of things I was carrying that I didn't know I was carrying. So to jump out of that lane, my interests are that I'm an actor doing daytime, not TV, but daytime jobs. I'm not on a series, but I've acted in 5 or 6. I am a professional artist. I used to teach a course called Psychology of Perception to visual art majors at a university. And I am a former certified leader trainer in the Mankind Project. My interest came on me. I had a friend male friend, and I was apprenticing cabinetry work with him. I own a cabinet shop, and I'm a remodeler. And he was the only guy that I'd ever met that started talking about his dad. And the more I listened, the more I was just dumbfounded about the things that he had gone through. And I could see the wounding on him by way of his behavior. And I'm not going to go into detail. It doesn't matter. And so one week, he came up to me and he said, I have just had the most profound, amazing, and powerful experience I've ever had. And I'm leaning in, I said, so he said, I just came off this weekend. And I said, okay, what'd you do? He goes, I can't tell you. Can I swear?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I said, man, to myself, I said, this is some bullshit, because I felt like I just got hung on a hook, Long story short, I went to a graduation ceremony, so to speak, a homecoming, as they're called now, where all of these different men, about 30 or 40 men of all colors, shapes, and sizes, no, that's not true, all shapes and sizes, had come back and were being welcomed home. And the audience was full, standing room only, and there were family there, children there. And I listened to each man speak. I was rocked. I was rocked. I heard them and saw them occur in a way that I'd never seen any body, any man speak and share. And it wasn't intimate, or no, how can I say it? It wasn't. They weren't details, but clearly this was an initiatory experience for them, and that it was powerful. And I could tell by listening to each one of them that they were hot as fuck on the experience they had. And some of the women that came up, and the whole families are invited at some point in this presentation to just share. Like, your guy's been back for 2 weeks now. What's he like? And the women, the wives, the family members, and children started sharing. And it was more of the same. So I said, I'm going. I had a brother-in-law that I told him I was going to go. And he said, well, that sounds like some bullshit.
Right.
He said, but if you go and it's that, if it's all that. So I went. I had an amazing experience in that weekend. And I'm going to keep this as short because I will drown you with this. I had experiences that were such that I felt emotionally transformed. I felt as though I'd put down lead off my shoulders. And I was high as fuck. I mean, I was just, the phrase they use, coming home like this and coming out of this experience, you may feel like your feet don't touch the ground. And they said, at some point, the ground will raise up to meet you. What they meant was you'll integrate this experience into your life in a way where you feel like you're now on solid ground again, but you're still. I mean, and this went on for me. Well, you hear me. This was 30. It was in 92. 92. That's been a minute. So I got involved. I went through. I did what I did. I was staffing the organization about a month later. Completely something you definitely cannot do now. They have some very strong protocols. And I continued on and just threw myself into this. I learned so many things about myself, the gifts I brought home and kept. The ones that I shared were the gifts that I brought home to my family, to my wife. And at one point, she wasn't very trusting. I've got a strong personality. I'm gentle, I'm kind, I'm supportive. And then I would have a short fuse. I never touched my wife. I want to be real clear about that. But I frightened her. And she was watching me over time. And she finally came to me and said, this is the man I've been waiting for. She knew who I was already. She knew there was something in the way. She didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. My father died. I didn't know there were phases of grief and mourning. I didn't know it existed. But I went through, to bring it back from the edge of the abyss, I went through a lot of experiences, and I started having those experiences around the world where I would go. I'd be invited and co-lead or lead at some point. I became a certified leader, and to help run these trainings. And I ended up doing, I don't want to say 100 because I don't remember anymore, but I know it wasn't 90. And each time I went, I learned something. It went from learning about myself to learning about people, to learning about this sort of immersive work and getting out of my own way. I learned things about leadership that I think a lot of leaders in this country, without going into politics, and a lot of men in this country, their idea of leadership is overpower. I learned that I was very hungry and needy. I really needed to be seen. And once I got through that period, because I'd come onto these weekends and I would just throw my heart right on the fucking ground. Mm. And so the leaders, staff, so on and so forth, they would come to me and go, dude, you're made for this work. You should be, they would say those things. It's that sort of adulation. I trusted it. I still do. I still get comments. And I recognize that there's a much bigger picture. And so when I got out of my own way and stopped being needy, I started being absolutely invested in strangers who were going to come to the training, all by word of mouth, no advertising, no, you should go. These men came based on something that was going on in their lives, and they heard about this training. After doing that so many times, when the men were coming, they'd be coming 30 at a time each training, 4-day weekend. I started to become very, I always had empathy, but I became a bit of a guard dog for these men and their children and their wives. And I was calling them at some point, I used the phrase, so who are the innocent bystanders in your life? Mm-hmm. And with my own experiences, I grew up in a household that was very volatile. And I tried to save a family member that I could not save without going into detail. It's not necessary. But I could not. They were invested in how they were going to deal with the world and how they were going to be dealing with how the world was coming at them within my household, within my family. And I could not convince them. I could not save them from what I was seeing. So I was invested. So I was trying to save everybody. I was very inspired. Mm. So time went on, and phenomenal. I met a lot of men that that laid down their hearts in ways that are not seen, in the world, in the real world. I'm not talking about a commercial, or a guy's crying about something, or his wife is talking to him like he's an idiot. There was that phase. Men were apologizing for their existence based on how they fucked up the world. Yeah, they didn't know how to change or fix it, but they knew, based on all the fingers pointing at them from wives and significant others, from the culture, they were the problem. Mm. But there was no recipe. This place was a bit of a recipe for me. And I don't know how many men figured 30 at a time for 30 years, 28, 30 years now. And over those weekends, including getting inside Folsom Prison, which I said no to so many times. But I went, and I was rewarded, and I was taught. I was blessed. I met men that were never going to get out, men that definitely needed to be on the inside, men that did not need to be on the inside, men that were no longer going to be on the inside, just every hair on the dog. Mm. And to a man, I would put them up as friends and protectors, regardless of whatever choices got them there. And so these trainings started to go on inside of Folsom Prison. And my brother-in-law invited me, and I went, dude, They're locked up. What, they're already in there. What am I going to do? What can I give them? He just said, man, you just got to come. I finally said yes, scared to death. And it was a very, very powerful, humbling experience. I met guys in there that were just strong, initiated, loving, powerful men.
Mm.
And they came out of things that were, in some cases, complete horror shows.
Mm.
That's not an exaggeration. Or they came out of happenstance, which was them being in a culture which had them groomed. That was their trajectory. It was unescapable.
Yeah.
I've got 2 daughters. They both teach. My youngest daughter was teaching within the Chicago school system for several years. And she would say, Dad, come on down, these guys, kids in the class, I want them to meet you. So I'd go down. And the more I watched and the more I saw, these kids were marching to prison. It was heartbreaking. It was real. I would listen to her talk to some of these kids that we bumped into. One particular child that she had in one of her classrooms. And this child started sharing with her. This happened to be a young lady. And it was heartbreaking what she was saying, because what she was reporting, she was presenting so matter-of-factly, not as though it was the norm. She was troubled by the events that she found herself in and how she was having to navigate. But it was very familiar. It wasn't exceptional. And when she left the table, she walked up to our table in a restaurant, and my daughter broke down in tears. So that's going a long way to just say that, I've seen a lot. I've tried to do a lot. I tried doing things that made me feel good because of my own neediness while I was serving. And then I stopped and just served. And it is from that place I felt I put a decent dent for the people I've met. I've been an agent of change to the extent I have.
Mm.
And it has not been easy. It's been, I'll take that back. No, it has not been easy. It's been fun, amazingly challenging. I just left a training, the last one I've been on, as leader emeritus, because I don't go out and, lead an entire staff and a training and all 60 people and manage that. I don't do that anymore. So I was invited as a guest. And it was challenging. It was challenging to watch. It was challenging to trust. It was challenging. And it wasn't about the leadership. It wasn't about it was just recognizing there's a continuum and it hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
And as much as it is a joy to see these men find themselves, there's nothing like seeing these guys, the light goes on. You can see them. I mean, these guys can be crying. Some of them are throwing up. Some of them are fainting. I mean, I'm serious. It's not an exaggeration. And the processes are served all over the world. And they're the same on each weekend for every man. From Africa to Europe to Asia to, I've not been to the Central Americas or Mexico, but Canada, all across the States. Same training, same recipe, same outcome. So, yeah, I hope I didn't drown you. I always tell myself I'm going to not go so deep. But every moment I start to speak about this, I just find myself here apologizing.
I'm all about going as deep as you want to go, and that's what this is about. Because I find that the truth isn't realized in breadth and accumulation. The truth is recognizing how deep you can go in one moment, whether it's deep into your emotion body, into your own suffering, into your pain, into your beliefs. So I feel the depth. I feel the depth of how you move. Talking to you, I'm not surprised after watching you in the work. And I'm moved by all of this, and I have a lot of comments and questions and so forth. But I think I just want to step back and say, there's something I say sometimes on my channel and in talks and so forth, that I find that there's the occasional person you bump into in the world, and you might walk right past them. You may never know who that is. You may not know that that's this person. But when you really get to know that person, they have a heart as big as the sky. Like, truly,
Oh yeah.
this person is in this world to offer deep, profound healing and transformation and essentially unconditional love. You're one of those people. I just want to put that out there. I feel it. I see it. It's completely obvious to me.
Well,
I have no doubt how many lives have been profoundly transformed by these interactions. And I have gratitude.
thank you. Thank you for that.
And I know what sacrifice that is as well. I know all of what goes into it. And also just hearing your story is so beautiful in that there's a sort of hero's journey to all of this. And you can't take the journey. You can't really get that far in the journey until you do your own work. That really has to come first. You have to do your own stuff, which keeps going, but the bulk of it has to be done before you can really open your hands and offer service without expectation and need, and that. But once that starts happening, it's like a force to be reckoned with. It's like a force of nature. You can feel it. You can see it happening. You're moved almost by the invisible hand. Like, what else are you going to do? What else am I here to do in this life, but to serve where I can, And then it comes down to like, okay, well, what is the context, right? What is the crucible of transformation? And the way you describe this work specifically is fascinating to me. And this is what I wanted to talk about. Like, what are the factors that go into that? How do you set this up? How do you get people to take their armor off? All these sorts of things. And then the other thing I want to just stand back and say is, like, so many people, including prominent leaders right now, would benefit so much from this kind of work. And yet they've just never been exposed to it in a way that they recognize what it is. Like, they just don't realize it's even available. The emotionally repressed kind of angry man is such an archetype in our society, and it's so prevalent that it's normalized in a sense, and it's almost championed in some way, such that it can be hard to shift out of that paradigm. And sometimes it's grace. We're lucky you had the friend who said, dude, I went to this weekend and it was, he used the almost like mysterious approach to get you there, or whatever it was, but it worked, right? And so there's an element of grace to this.
Let's put a pin there. I don't want to interrupt you. And he just shared his experience. He had no agenda, none whatsoever. He wasn't trying to get me there. I've not enrolled men trying to get them there.
Sure.
I find myself talking about it, and men may lean in and say they may be curious, or they may not. I've spoken in front of specific friends because I thought it would serve them. I never mention the weekend. I never say, oh, there's this place, you got to, I never mention it. But I would ask troubling questions.
Yeah.
And as a facilitator, I would ask questions that troubled. Being asked the question, an individual would be a bit tipped off balance. It would be something that they were asked that they either never thought about, or that's all they thought about. But there was something very real in their life that they might be able to address, or something that was brought to the surface about. I really hesitate to give examples because it's almost like saying, well, here's a trick, try this,
Right.
And I've learned that the man's experience on the weekend is, I don't want somebody walking in there with a sharpened knife, so to speak, with an extra tool. The difficulty in the work is that there's an expectation that the world would behave if they only knew, or when will they get it, or. But I'd say when I came home, conversation on an elevator was completely different. I didn't go into anything. but the world, the paradigm shift, period. That's the best way to describe it. And I'm starting to bang on, so I'll leave room for you to, clarify your question or ask another. Or
to me, what you're describing or your response is leads me to just bring up authenticity. It's a word that's used a lot, but there's an authenticity that has to do with timing. It has to do with reading the person, the situation, yourself, and communicating honestly. That's it. And I really don't intend to suggest there's tricks to this or anything. And that's the beauty of what I saw, and I've done some of this myself as well, even with some of the cast from the work. But it's actually the fact that there aren't specific tools necessarily insisted upon. There are tools, sure, but what I see that works is that it's what works for the person and how they need to move and how they need to go. And almost, I might say it like, I think people know where they want to go. They've just never been given permission, and or they're afraid, and maybe they kind of don't quite know how, but they know where they want to go. That's my sense of it.
Let me put a little light on that. A lot of the men that I've met and that have gone through some of these trainings, they didn't know where they wanted to go. I think they stumbled on the concept of, is this all there is? I think they, when they started hearing about how they may be impacting people they love, they didn't know where to go. Sometimes men came because their wives said, do something. Go do, change your drawers, do something. And this work, came into their lives, however. But 9 times out of 10, the man's work on a weekend, or a staff member assisting on the weekend, or a fly on the wall. If a fly is on the wall watching every moment of this training for 4 days, that motherfucker's going to be affected. The work itself unfolding as it does, without any script, without any menu, other than just a format, of, on Friday we'll do this, that, and the other, and then Saturday. And all of a sudden there's this momentum that occurs, and then we're off to the races. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Everybody can be very frightened, staff as well as leaders, as well as the men that have come and laid their souls at our feet and said, I'm here. What do I do? How can I help me? There is, and it is in that space, I believe, that it is, I don't want to use the word magic. Let's just say there is a possibility for a change based on the intensity of clarification, a new paradigm, a new way to look at something. And that's what builds the power of the staff. That is what builds the power within the men. And over time, over and over and over and over, these trainings go on, and the staff becomes really good. In Chicago, we were doing a weekend once a month, every month. There's a lot of communities, if you will, centers, around the world that weren't doing that. And I was seeing the same guys over, the staff and the leaders, over and over and over again. And I started to become drop-jawed about what I was hearing them say, how I was watching them affect. So it was not somewhere you go and you take notes. You are the note paper. You are the note paper. And if you're lucky, men leave the training. Very low percentage. I don't want to say any numbers because I don't know. But of all the trainings I've done, I think I was on a training where 2 men that I can remember said, okay, this is not for me. I got to go. And we blessed them out and said, hey, dude, make your decision. That's all you. Car's parked right over there. You got your keys. We're not a cult. They are not a cult. But they provide a very serious, sophisticated, rough, loving experience for souls.
Mm.
And the cost to me was that, I was gone all the time. I couldn't get enough of it. I got 2 little kids, had. And my wife said to me, she said, this is hard, being at home with the kids by myself. You're gone. I think they had a training on Father's Day.
Wow.
Somebody wasn't thinking. Okay. And I went on that training. I don't know what they do now, what's sacred or not. I have no idea. But what she then said was, I see the difference. And what I was bringing in was into my household. I knew it was a profound difference, and I wasn't speeching it. And my wife was watching, and one day she said, "This is the man I've been waiting for." And so it cost what it cost.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question that comes to me is one of intention. There are all kinds of groups of people. Yeah. And this doesn't happen in the majority of them, this kind of transformation. What intention are people bringing here? What is it that's different? What is the secret sauce? I mean, obviously, anyone watching this can go sign up for the Mankind Project work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're a woman, or you're not in a city that have
Well,
that, or what do you look for in a group that is going to be truly transformational in the way we're talking about?
Well, I there's a phrase that I came to understand was it was called trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
And walking into these trainings, an initiatory experience is something where you don't know what the fuck's going to go on. You don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know where it's going to happen. You don't know what time it is. You don't know when it's going to be over. That's an initiatory experience. Some cultures provide them in a way that is indigenous cultures that are profound. And some of their methods, if you will, are that there is you don't have to believe in God. It is not offered. Don't think that Christ not being mentioned or the Buddha or is makes this place unsafe or not the place. What happens on these trainings? Well, I think you asked me a question I'm not answering. That is what the secret ingredients is for choosing a group and where and what we do there that this works. Is that am I?
Yeah, it is, and I mean, I can give it a little context. I mean, there are people who are conditioned to choose the wrong group. There are people who end up literally in cults still to this day. End up in situations where they're abused by leaders and things, and they don't know how they get into that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I know how they get into that, but what can people look for to say this is a group that really is going to work? Like it's the work is here. There aren't ulterior motives. Is it intention? Is it a stated intention? Is it how do you build that trust, I suppose?
There's a lot of answers. I don't know that I have them. I could just start rattling off some things that come to me, which is, well, it's a not-for-profit organization. As a staff member, I come and pay. There is an accountant and an accountability around money in every community. There is a structure that keeps the weekend safe. No one's making any money. We make enough to pay insurance, which we have, and to pay for food, to rent a site, a camp. But beyond that, the way I would trust would be, I don't know that you're going to know. I think if you talk to someone, and speaking to me, I hope that someone listening to this will go, that guy's not playing. And he does not seem to be a salesman. I'm not pitching this at all. As I said, 30 years, I've never said, you need to do this, or you should do this, or, oh, there's this place. I've talked to the man about themselves. Their trust level came from, I think, being hungry. I think the culture made them, and as men, very hungry for something that's real, something that they could lean into. And I think in talking to some men or people that have gone through, I can't speak towards other cultures. I was a part of, I want to be careful here, guiding, supporting a group down south. And I think that anyone that would help promote a space for people to heal is someone to listen to and use your intuition and see, listen, talk. If they're selling t-shirts, or if they have a big fancy office somewhere, maybe it's not the place. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But for women, there is a women's organization. I'm sure there's more. I don't know everything and everywhere around, transformation.
Sure.
But my wife, my mother, my two of my sisters went through the women's version, Women Within. I don't know what they do. I do know that it's different than what we do. And my wife came back with some powerful gifts. Our relationship became deeper. And I don't want to sound like I'm selling it. I'll just say that she had a good experience, and there are places out there. So Women Within, Mankind Project, there is Underground Railroad. That was something that I was invited in to assist with. And when I left, the men that were down there, they hadn't formed Underground Railroad yet. I think I was on a training. It was all Black men. And I was invited down. They knew of me. Some of the men of color from Mankind Project went down to staff. And they were rocked. And they designed their group. They designed their experiences. They theatered, if you will. They constructed the experience. And I got to tell you, I sat in a chair and watched, and I was in tears because the thing that they were doing, the effect that it was having, and the way they were doing it was so powerful. I was moved to tears. I mean, I was just sitting there like a child crying. I felt like an idiot. And so they've grown and grown, and then they became co-ed, and they've moved on, and they're still doing trainings. And they've designed them in a way that you don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're going to do. To say it briefly without sharing anything, it's just an initiatory experience, which is, you know where you are.
Beautiful. Underground Railroad, you said?
Underground Railroad.
Cool. Right on.
And there's some heavy players down there, I will tell you that. I won't give myself permission to name names as much as I'm leaning on my chair to go, oh, there's this guy, and then there's this.
I'm going to check them out. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to follow the mystery, see what's going on. So you mentioned the word initiatory process. Is that what the word you used? Initiatory?
I did.
I want to know about that. Tell me I know the feeling of it. I think I know exactly what it is. I've been through it with these trainings, but just to maybe flesh it out a little bit for anyone who's like as intrigued by that as I am. To me, it's a very intriguing idea.
Well, it's a paradox because if it's an initiatory experience, it's one in which you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. You trust.
And
then you have the experience. And the experiences are such that you've not experienced this before. Or maybe you've heard about something. I don't know. But your experience is such, if it's profound enough for you to come home and hug your dog, or your dog starts behaving differently around you.
Yeah.
I've heard that mentioned. I don't know that it's true. I don't have a dog anymore, but there's all these stories of, well, I came home, the dog jumped on my, It's wagging its tail, right? Not attacking. But an initiatory experience, you don't know. If you trust that you are looking for something, maybe it's not in the culture providing it for you. I'll circle back and say, well, men, I know you all know who John Wayne was, and that was our idea of a man. And for me, wasn't any different. You don't show your emotions. You never show you're afraid. If you feel ashamed, attack. Everything circled back to ferocity, overpower, dominating. And that is the culture that we are in. And an initiatory experience is when you don't really recognize the impact you're having on the world until someone helps you see it. And you're the one that turns on the light. They don't go, here, drink this soup, but they provide a set of experiences. And accountability is one of the things that is important in an initiatory experience. Who are you that you can meet these souls and assume that you know what the fuck you're doing? And the paradox is at some point, even with all the skill sets, and especially with all the skill sets one may amass, you start to recognize just before they step through the door, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether it's going to be a success in that they get what they came to get and go home fulfilled and transformed, or whether they're going to go, what the give me my keys. Go get my car. Now, a cult would be that, well, now, you said you were going to stay the weekend. We don't do that. A cult would rock it that way with you. But we were like, hey, get us keys. And, we just want to celebrate you. Congratulations. Your choice to leave. You're welcome back anytime. No shame, no blame. No way. But the initiatory experience, and I'll stop, floating that, is that you don't know. The best you can do is go, well, I heard about some great music. I heard about a great book. Let me go check it out. Your intuition at some point will tell you, even if you're frightened, your intuition will tell you you're onto something. No one's harming you. No one's shaming you. No one is shaming you. But you're getting asked some questions you never thought of. And we know enough to see and watch body language, and it tells us things. And when I say things, not about how much he makes and where his car's parked. I mean, what he might be hiding, or that he's attempting, or she is attempting to hide, or that she or he is scared. And their response to that, their next choice, their go-to to kind of recalibrate, regain their center. All of that is the stuff of the story that's untold, but by sharing it, that there's something there. So, I'd love to go into great detail, but I would be betraying the work.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. And I mean, there's definitely a fine line here between trying to overdefine all of this, and trying to convey it to someone that, that at least they get a sense of what this is about. It's just such remarkable work. And sometimes that feels just like total happenstance that someone hasn't bumped into it. I didn't see anything like this until I was 3 years ago, 49 years old. First time I saw that kind of work. I've seen a lot of transformational type stuff, and that works at different levels, but this kind of work we're talking about to this degree, this depth, this potent, I hadn't seen that. I hadn't bumped into it at all.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to agree, and I know there's a lot of stuff out there that I don't know about, so I won't say, we're the sliced bread and everybody else is trying to be a baker. By the way, what we provide and we're providing other cultures around the world, and Russia, Africa, Latin America, they were indigenous people doing just this. There have been books by authors, Malidoma Somé, Credo Moudoir, that have spoken towards these experiences. And they were well in place and in effect long before I was born. And we have garnished some of the ways, if you will. But the Mankind Project was an organic phenomenon. There was about 6 guys. There was a military, there was a psychologist, there was. And I'm trying to name them all, but they got together recognizing there was something missing in the culture for men, and especially in the wake of women's lib, if you will, or the women's movement, that men were starting to look like the problem. Now, I'm going to give you some. There was a time at which, and you probably still can, watch a television commercial. Watch how the man is represented. There have been some that are so obviously stilted, where the guy is like, "Oh, I didn't know that," type of thing, in relationship to his partner, his wife.
Yeah.
Well, the culture was such that they picked up on this and were selling it back to us, that phenomenon, to sell us a better shovel, I don't know, a better dishwashing, whatever. So it was, the dysfunction was alive in the culture. It still is, but it was alive in the culture in a way in which it started to become a part of the media and the corporate to sell you shit.
I remember seeing those commercials very clearly, especially if I see them in retrospect. I see them now from 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It has that flavor of, it's almost like a mother-child relationship more than a husband-wife relationship.
Pretty much. The guy's getting scolded, or he's kind of agreeing that he fucked something up, or, and it only takes a nanosecond to get that message across. But they're still, all they're doing, I don't believe they're using that. They're doing it and selling you something, but I don't believe that's their tool. I think they're just showing you what their concept of a relationship is in that household. And that's the culture.
Yeah. So, speaking of television commercials, so I want to circle back around to acting. I'm curious if you want to go into it a bit about how this transformational work, maybe I'll just sort of say, learning to move from a more authentic place, a more emotionally attuned place. How does that play out in acting? Do you find that it augments your acting ability, makes it more natural, or?
I have to say that I'm in the Screen Actors Guild. I've been in front of, I've been on TV, on national commercials over the years. You've seen me, you just don't remember. I don't consider that acting. I don't bring anything into that. And once again, that's a national commercial is trying to sell you something. So you got, it's not a noble thing. It may be a good product, don't get me wrong, but it's not a noble thing. Now, acting, and that is the basis of your question. I've not studied. There are those that have, that know a whole lot more than I do. I've had a lot of experiences. I'm able to access, well, here's the answer. The answer to that question is I'm able to access my emotions in a way in which I can touch something real And when someone is asking me to touch something real, well, I'll touch it. And my body does what it does.
Mm.
Now, I've never thought, oh, shit, I'm better at this now because, if I've given myself permission to have feelings that I used to be afraid of, I don't know that it makes me a better actor. I think an actor is someone that can make you think they're having that experience.
Mm.
And it could be a really good actor may reach something, access something that gives them pain, fear, that's real, and use it to invest into the character they're playing. I'll give you that. I can't say that I've consciously thought about, oh, I'm better now. I used to, I grew up where you're not supposed to cry. You don't show your emotions, all of that we covered. Well, then when I gave myself permission to address things that really broke my heart.
Mm.
I found that, and someone coined this inside Folsom, it's not mine. Your tears are your medicine. And when you can access something that brings you pain and brings you tears, you are in the process of healing. And then I've been told and learned that a loss or grief, you will visit pain. It will attack you in the grocery line, in traffic. You'll have a memory and you'll be right there. And I have of my father and his passing. And I break down and start crying. I did not know that there was a path for loss. I did not know that there were 4 or 5 symptoms that are predictable that could show up in any order.
Well, the other part of the sort of acting artistic sort of thing I was curious about is, so you're also a visual artist.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me about that? How has that sort of played out in your life?
Well, the first memory I have of drawing anything was a finger-painted horse when I was in kindergarten. And the teacher praised. And I didn't have it in me to know that, well, maybe maybe this is what teachers do. I don't know. I didn't have that. I needed it. I didn't have it. But what she did was and I just listened. I was her audience in that moment. She took the finger painting horse and she put it at the end of the hallway on the bulletin board. That was it. I was looking for that cookie. And I still am. It's still in my work, and it's okay. But sometimes it can get in the way. By 5th or 6th grade, I was copying, not tracing, but reproducing Peanut characters, the comic strip characters. And I was giving them to my friends, of course, at adulation. Oh, you drew this? How long did it take you? If I had $1 for every time someone said that to me throughout my 76 years, I wouldn't be talking to you. No, that's not true. I'd be wealthy. So I came home. I was telling my dad, oh, I've been giving the drawing. He's giving. Sell them. Don't give your work away. So I started selling them for 10 cents and a quarter, 5 cents. I wasn't a businessman. My father was. His grandfather, his father was a slave.
Wow.
My grandfather was a slave. My father came out of the South and came to Evanston and became an self-employed tradesman. And he raised myself and my 3 sisters, and we ended up in a fairly lucrative community. We were the only ones, which was very difficult, and he came and apologized to me for that as an adult, myself as an adult. Dude, I'm sorry I did that to you. It was not easy. I wouldn't trade a minute of what it taught me, but it was not easy. But so the business aspect of it for me got locked in at a very early age, and to give me a cookie. Look at this. Give me a compliment. Give me a compliment. Then I really threw myself at it. Started studying and taught it. Went to university. Blah blah blah. I mentioned that, and I can give you a little tour of what I do. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm checking this one out right behind you here.
Yeah, that's most of what you'll see in here is not finished. If I can lift the camera.
Sure. Yeah. Let's check it out.
This is oil.
Mm.
This is a gentleman that was on one of the trainings that we did. And I found his face to be fascinating. I asked him, could I do a portrait?
Beautiful.
This means something, and it's still private because it is.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And it's so not finished, but it has some nice moments, I think.
Gorgeous. Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's a beautiful rendition of his face. Wow.
And then this is hopefully my daughter in Japan doesn't see this. It's a portrait of my grandchild.
Oh.
It's called it's an underpainting. Self-portrait. I was in Rome, and this woman, I grabbed her face, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
This is from inside Folsom. That's Dante.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. This was from Taiwan. This is a guy in the Mankind Project. These are charcoals and pastels. Charcoal.
So you use all different kinds of mediums.
Yeah, I do. My wife kept telling me, do you realize? And I'd never thought about it. You pick up, well, let's see if this will work. This is a pencil. This one is special to me.
Ooh, that's gorgeous.
Okay, this guy, this monkey, and this fry cook are in a moment together. And I was in a restaurant, and I happened to look up, and I saw this guy's profile. And how I can draw. I'll either sit in airports, or I'll draw without looking at the paper and just get, the shapes of where things belong. And then the embellishment comes later. But what this meant, I didn't know what it meant. But it snuck up on me one day, and it made perfect sense. It doesn't have a title, but I realized something about it. It was about the difficulty in communication and who I was trying to communicate to. I saw myself later on as this guy. And I was pouring, as you can see, this guy's passionately sharing something to a fry cook. Nothing against a fry cook. But the look on this guy's face doesn't really reflect the passion that's being shared. Well, that was the backstory.
Wow.
Okay? But I'd drawn this, and I didn't know that's what it meant until it told me. This is from Zhuhai, China.
Adorable.
And I've got hundreds and hundreds of drawings in here. I won't do that to you. This is from a series.
Oh, I love it. And
this is all pencil.
Wow.
This is just something that fell out of my head.
Ooh, that's cool. I dig it. Yeah.
There's a time. It alludes to the fact that the reason that the tortoise won was because the rabbit was all jacked out on meth. It has a really long title. I can't remember what it is, but that was in every Chase Bank in the United States.
Wow. Huh.
In the lobby, portrait of a very close friend.
That's gorgeous. Is that charcoal, that one?
That was charcoal and pastel, white chalk.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Beautiful.
And that one is a bit of both. That's pencil and. That was pencil. This is one of my favorites. I'm on Instagram at Bud_Wheeler.
Oh man.
Now this one is, I wish my hand wouldn't shake like it. When I drew this, look at the hair. Look at the distance between each line. It's the fact that they are being hair, being a straight line, but not crossing over the next line.
Dude. That's incredible.
just the detail. This is a monkey doing a self-portrait.
Oh, self-portrait. Okay. Yeah. I was wondering what he had there, if it was a mirror or what. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got a cabinet shop in the basement, so I make cabinets.
Ah, okay. My father he did a lot of woodworking. He passed a few years ago, but yeah.
I remodel houses by referral. Been doing that for about 50 years, and I own the business. One of my favorite paintings, and it's on Instagram. My daughter keeps telling me, "Okay, that's mine, Dad. You know that's mine, right?" And this is a big one. This is one of the men that was inside Folsom,
Mm.
and this is all oil. Everything you saw that's of color was oil. Is oil, and this is the same guy. It's the same guy.
Man, the imagery of the water, was he in the work?
Yes,
Okay. Yep. I remember him.
that's Kiki.
Kiki. Yeah. Yeah. Now people are going to ask, does any of your stuff, is it for sale or?
Currently, I'm not selling,
Okay.
but currently I'm producing for the purpose of selling.
Okay. Gotcha.
I would part with this. This
Mm.
is a portrait of a woman that I met on the south side of Chicago at a rib joint.
Mm.
And she had this jacket matched the boots that you don't see. Big cowboy boots, big woman. I mean, she really filled the space in a very powerful, dignified way. All right, I'm going to take you downstairs real quick.
Right on.
So I put a second floor on my house and all this woodwork and the crown, all of the second floor. We added about 2,400 square feet.
I love the staircase. You built the staircase?
Yes.
Wow.
And
Nice.
the steps.
Whew. Beautiful.
I'm taking you down to look at the last painting.
Mm-hmm.
The last two paintings. That's a gift I made drawing for my daughter. That's a pencil.
Okay. And what is, can you show me that again? Oh, what's above? I'm not sure what that is.
That's a black feather. It's a crow's feather.
Oh, crow's feather. Okay. Yep.
I have a website that's an e-commerce site that I'm trying to get off the ground, and it's called Just One Pro. And I trademarked it. That's how long I've been looking at a camera. A friend of mine did that.
Oh, wow.
Let's see if I can get the glare off.
Beautiful. Man.
That's all pencil.
Damn. That's, wow.
It's a big piece.
That's maybe one of the biggest pencil drawings I think I've ever seen.
Oh, no, here's the biggest one right here.
Oh, wow.
That's about 4 foot by 36.
Oh, wow.
And all of these things. I'll try to remember this. The title is about Clarence, a lower level angel, reviews prayers and petitions before sending on to God. Now, on this, every utterance in the culture about God, OMG, you are my best friend forever.
Gotcha. Okay.
Dear God, please save my child. Our Father who art in heaven. Oh my God, look at the size of that thing. Dear God.
So
Dear God, please help us beat the shit out of the other team.
He's the angel that triages the lesser prayers.
Yes, he's been trusted, but he's still lower level. This is my kitchen. I'm gonna do it real fast. I built these cabinets.
Beautiful.
And this is my most favorite painting that I've done.
Wow.
It's a friend of mine from the East Coast.
Damn. Whoa. Is this oil?
All oil.
Wow.
Now, if you could see it closer, there's little broken blood vessels in his skin. There's every pore has been given it some attention.
The beard is incredible, man. That's just something else. Wow.
And this is the last one, I think. This is a guy that works at a can't remember the name of the meat market, fish market in the city. And this is just a I saw his eyebrows. I asked him, could I do a portrait? And and then I gave him this fish.
Nice. Oh, that's cool, man.
I gave him the fish in oils and paint, but he was, that's what he does.
Very cool, man.
That's my grandson.
How cute.
That's all pencil.
Uh-huh.
That's my granddaughter.
Oh, adorable.
Pencil. And this is a younger version of my grandson.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love the minimalist, but the eyes are just so alive. That's cool. The lips, too.
I like to make something look really, really soft, and then not so much with the eyes. Anyway, that's it.
Right on, man. Dude, thanks for the tour. I love art.
I don't know where we're at in terms of time or content.
I think we're getting close to our end, but I'd love to have another conversation someday. And so we'll get your Instagram on here. Are there any other? I'll put of course links to the Mankind Project too. So if anyone's interested, they can find a weekend or however that works. Any other links for your stuff that you want me to put on here?
Well, I've got one called justonecrow.com. However, if they go to it, they're not going to enjoy. I would say at this point, just the Instagram one, which is I'm still populating with images.
Great.
A lot of the stuff you see here is there, and some stuff you haven't seen because I do a lot of digital cartoon work, and some of that's there.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing all the art. That's cool. It's something I don't usually get to do is see like such a tour of their studio and all the different pieces. But I love it.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to run my mouth,
dude. Amazing stuff. Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate you. Any last suggestions, comments, advice for someone who's out there who's just like, man, I'm suffering. I don't know what I saw something in this video or this conversation or the work that moved me, I
would say that, give yourself permission to have feelings and also be accountable for how you got them. If you're not aware of your emotional literacy, your value system on which emotion is serving the moment or serving you, then you need to, let's just say, emotional literacy is knowing how you got to the emotion, going back to something that you probably can't remember, but a trauma.
Yeah.
It's something that was learned in a moment in which, and I think that's the definition of a trauma, mine anyway, in which you were outgunned. You didn't know what to do. You were afraid. You didn't have any power. And as you grow up, you don't want to have that feeling anymore. And what men do is go out of their way to make sure they don't have that feeling. The moment they think they're going to have it, they'll probably attack. And when I say attack, it could look like anything. It could look like just over-talking a woman or over-talking a friend or, over. But that's all I got, my friend.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, your effort, your words, and I know people are going to get a lot out of this. They always do. So I'll get your links up there. And again, thanks for sharing everything, man.
Angelo, it's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, my friend. Hopefully we'll see each other in person someday.
Okay, you take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.